Shalom, shalom and welcome. My name is Symmanayah, and this is Final Exodus Readiness. It is the second installment entitled Race and Identity. It is part of an Endtime ruling series. Again, my name is Symmanayah, and I say shalom to you who have been drawn to this message. I am compelled to believe in these days, we are witnessing the life in the scriptures like we have never seen before. Welcome to this segment. Again, like I said, it is a segment of Final Exodus Readiness, the second installment, entitled Race and Identity. Please note, I will present a message also regarding nation identity following this segment of this particular message. People of many races, as it relates to Hebrews versus Gentiles, struggle with understanding the importance of nationality. As a result of a multitude of interpretations, emotions, anxieties, or fears, even anger, race and identity appears to be a challenge to those who are not Hebrews or uncertain whether or not they are indeed a Hebrew or not. Please note, it is also a struggle for individuals who discover that they are indeed a Gentile and or who are uncertain whether they are a Gentile or not. There are specific duties and tasks that require certain things, my brothers and sisters, and there are some tasks and duties that require one to know their race and to acknowledge their position as it relates to scriptures. I invite your patience, for I will address these concerns as I am directed. It is important to review this segment prayerfully, with patience, and thoroughly. Remember, it is important to pray and study and pray some more and seek to discern any words that come before you. And as I stated, the next segment will talk about nation identity. But for now, consider the importance of race and identity. There are specific details and components regarding a final Exodus. We must and we will begin to see the importance of who will be in attendance. It would be wise, my brothers and sisters, to recognize that all groups begin with at least one individual discovering their identity. And that individual moves to another individual, and then we begin to see groups form, families coming together, camps are built, and nations emerge as one person joins another until specific goals are met that can bring about the final description, whether it be a family, a group, or a nation. There's a process that occurs. And I am referring to that final specific goal as the descriptions. You know, like you got one, now you have two. Before you know it, there is a group. Or before you know it, there is family. Or there are families, camps, and nations come about. Let us consider our current position of belief, or faith as it is most commonly known. End times are here. We have many interpretations, and we speak of many different beliefs regarding what we should expect in the coming days. I submit to you, my brothers and sisters, yes, you, today is the day to begin examining the one in the mirror closely. Today is to affirm or reaffirm your position of belief, who you seek to worship and obey. Today is the day for many, but not all will discover their personal identity as it relates to race. I say not all because race and identity is critical for certain tasks that needs to be accomplished. In other words, there are individuals with assignments, and in order for those assignments to be carried out successfully, they must come to understand their race and identity as it relates to the fulfillment of what is written in scriptures, as it relates to requirements of the task at hand. Keep in mind, it is written that there is neither Hebrew nor Gentile, but all of us are one in Yahusha Mashiach. But also keep in mind this, my brothers and sisters, it is also written that the Almighty Father Yahuah will gather the banner of Yasharal. The scriptures tell us that the banner of Yasharal will prove to consist of the 12 tribes of Yasharal. 12 Hebrew tribes, and they're specifically mentioned in Revelation 7th chapter. So in order for this to come about, there are some that must come to identify their race. It also says in the 7th chapter, if you read it thoroughly, that there's a great multitude of people from many nations, tribes, and tongues who seek to do the will of the Almighty Father will be in the ranks of these 12 tribes, this 144,000 plus a great multitude. So you see, there are some that's going to just be part of a great multitude of many different nations and tribes and tongues. So it's not necessary that they really know their race, but there are those who must fulfill what is written. And therefore, and to honor the promises made by the Most High, there will be representatives that will indeed identify their true race. There are two distinct components to our individual identity, my brothers and sisters. These two distinct components are critical to bringing together a set-apart family and the rise of an awakening nation, Yasharal. The first, race. Race is important for fulfilling certain prophecies which speak of the 12 tribes of Yasharal, commonly known as Israel or Yisrael, as I've mentioned. But there's also the second component, and that's being a set-apart one, being part of the body of Mashiach, the body of the children of Yahuah, knowing that seeking to do the will of the Almighty Father by accepting his plan and being a set-apart family is critical. More than anything, we must understand the importance of both of these components. You see, if not, those who receive the curse, as it's mentioned in Deuteronomy 28, those who have been scattered, how would we know that they are brought back? How would many scriptures be fulfilled if we cannot identify who the Hebrews are? Or some may say Abri. You see, and let us not be jealous or envy or angry when someone cannot identify their nationality. For giving the tasks that are at hand for them, it may not be necessary for them to recognize that, but do not dismiss that there are those who have convictions that must acknowledge race. I am compelled to believe knowing whether or not one is Hebrew or Gentile is important for specific task fulfillment. We will witness chosen leaders confirm these words and make them known to their respective groups, camps, and their fellowships. I will also address why it will not be important for everyone to know their race, as I mentioned. I realize that this may spark disagreement on many levels, but pray on these words, my brothers and sisters. Balance, truth, and clarity of what is important regarding various tasks will be made known and will become clear in the coming days, if not already. I realize there are those among us who may disagree with my statement regarding two distinct components to our identity. With this said, allow me to present the following. And I'm going to put a slide up that will show you some of the verses that I will be referencing as we move along the way. Romans 1:16 says, "For I am not ashamed of the good news of Messiah, for it is the power of the Almighty One for deliverance to everyone who believes, to the Yehudite first, and also to the Greek." You see, so if we dismiss the fact that there's a need to identify race for some, how then would we know whether the Yehudite first, how would we know that that has come to be? Are we trying to say that Yehuda is extinct? I think not. So there must be balance in order for us to know and receive the full life of this passage. Moving further, let me also add Romans chapter, that was Romans 1:16. Now let me move to Romans chapter 2. I'm going to read verse 2 through 11. It reads as follows. And we know that the judgment of the Almighty One is according to truth against those who practice such wrongs. And do you think, O man, you who judge those practicing such wrongs and doing the same, that you shall escape the judgment of the Almighty One? Or do you despise the riches of his kindness and tolerance and patience, not knowing that the kindness of the Almighty One leads you to repentance? But according to your hardness and your unrepentant heart, you are treasuring up for yourselves wrath in the day of wrath and revelation of the righteous judgment of the Almighty One, who shall render to each one according to his works. I'm going to read that again, 2:6. Who shall render each one according to his works. There are specific tasks. There are specific things that are expected of us. There are specific works that we must and will accomplish. And it goes on to say, everlasting life to those who by persistence in good works seek for esteem and respect and incorruptibility, but wrath and displeasure to those who are self-seeking and do not obey the truth, but obey unrighteousness, affliction and distress on every human being working what is evil. Of the Yahudah first, and also of the Greek. But esteem, respect, peace to everyone working what is good, to the Yahudite first, and also to the Greek. For there is no partiality with the Almighty One. Now, brothers, I'm going to pause for a minute, because you may say, well, it says Elohim, or if you read another version, it may have a pagan label that they use. Elohim mean mighty ones, plural. And some may say Elohim, Elohim, or Elohim. There's no Trinity. I submit that there is a sequence in the way our relationship have come together, and we have been restored into fellowship with the Most High. Yes, a sequence. Yahuah, Spirit everywhere at all times, the beginning and the end. Yahuah, Word manifest in the flesh, in the person, in the name of Yahusha. Yahuah sent his set apart Spirit in Yahusha's name. There's a sequence, no Trinity. So you will find, due to the misunderstanding regarding the word Elohim, that oftentimes I will say the Almighty One. And we know language has been tampered with. So please don't jump on that bandwagon and say, well, you're adding to the scriptures. Know that the text has been tampered with. Let us know what the Spirit is saying regarding the matter. And you pray about whether that's acceptable or not, my brothers and sisters. Again, there's no Trinity. But back on the matter at hand, race and identity. My brothers and sisters, though I could present much about race, I am compelled to address this in part as much as you will hear today at this given time. Please be advised, our forefather, whose name was Yaakov, commonly known as Jacob, his name was changed to Yasharal, or commonly known as many as Israel or Yisrael. The scriptures mention many diverse nations throughout the text. However, if we search the scriptures from cover to cover, we will see, as we learn, as we study, that there are two distinct specific nations referenced as a major two. And that is Yasharal, again, who was once Yaakov or Jacob to some, and Esau, who is also Edom. These are the two major nations throughout Scripture. And we will see a correlation to these names as it also relates to Hebrews and Gentiles, or Abri and Goyim. Goyim just means other nations. Please note that even when they were born, when Yaakov was born and Esau was born, it was told that there were two nations fighting within the womb of their mom or their mother. I submit to you that fighting is ongoing. Please note there are individuals who represent a race of people, and there will be individuals representing a set apart nation versus a wicked nation. Meaning that you have the literal, actual blood race, genetic race. But you also have representation by behaviors, habits, and customs that have either come from set apartness or wickedness. seek to discern and understand these, my brothers and sisters. It would be wise to come to know the importance of the words Hebrew or Abri versus Gentiles or Goyim. The truth be told, my brothers, my sisters, one represents a chosen race, the Most High Father, a race that he began his plan of restoration. And it began with Hebrews. It began with the seed, with Abraham's seed. So he started with Hebrews or Abri first, and then he worked his way towards a message to the Gentiles. So it's important that we understand that. It doesn't say that the Hebrews are more superior to a Gentile if that Gentile is indeed seeking to do the will of the Almighty Father. Scriptures merely let us know that's the race he started with in his plan of restoration. But so many people have taken to the point of saying I'm a Hebrew that gives me a sense of entitlement. And even those who do not seek to do the will of the Almighty Father are just so amazed that they are indeed of Hebrew descent. But I say to you, my brothers and sisters, what's important is that we come to know that we who are Hebrews or Abri, but that we don't think that we have this superior sense of superiority over a Gentile. It's just merely the race in which the Most High started and began his plan. But it's important that we know and understand the scriptures fully, that even a Gentile, which one may say in a condescending way or a subpar way, a Gentile is just as much a brother or a sister if they indeed too seek to do the will of the Almighty Father. For we are made one by Yahusha, our Mashiach, and many will come to understand this clearly. I'm not here to debate anyone, but if you want to explore the scriptures thoroughly, if you want to examine things in whole, I welcome that conversation, that exploration. It is important to know why race is a critical part in this plan, or otherwise, if you were reading the scriptures and you keep seeing the word Hebrews and Gentiles, it would be problematic. It may be difficult for you to understand. But many easily like to say, well, we don't have to worry about that because he says we neither Hebrew, we neither Greek or Hebrew, we all one in Mashiach. Yes, it does say that, but it also says that there are certain tribes that will come to fulfill certain prophecies. It also says that he would restore Yasharal. So let's keep the scriptures whole, my brothers and sisters. Let's keep the balance without allowing it to be skewed or twisted. Consider, again, as I mentioned, Revelations 7th chapter. Moving right along. Before you abandon this message, I plead to you to be patient. Yes, I make a plea that you be patient and prayerful. The words will come to make sense for the building of an awakening nation in due time, if not already. I believe each of us will come to agree with these words, that they are appropriate for this series entitled Final Exodus Readiness. I realize this is a touchy subject, but time will prove that it must be addressed. There are Hebrews who are called blacks, struggling with accepting Gentiles who are white into a body of one in Yahusha HaMashiach, and vice versa. There are many so-called white people or non-black people who struggle with accepting that most Hebrews are black. Now, some of you might say, well, why would he say that most Hebrews are black? I say most to reinforce what was promised by the Most High Father Yahuah to Abraham, using the words that describe Abraham's seed as numerous as the sands of the sea. And I'm referencing Genesis chapter 32, verse 12. It's posted on the slide. You see, my brothers and sisters, he say, as numerous as the sands of the sea. Are there any scriptures anywhere to talk about any nation that is as numerous and as large as the Hebrew nation, just by race? But again, the importance, the significance is directed towards Hebrews that are set apart. For there are Hebrews who are not. There are wicked Hebrews. Just like you can have, quote unquote, an Israelite who is wicked, and you have some that are set apart, you can also have a Gentile who is wicked or is also set apart. Be mindful of this, my brothers and sisters. Search the scriptures, they bear witness of these words. Due to our awakening and the rise of the truth, there's been many who have allowed their emotions and anger and disappointment and more to cause them to step out of the bounds of true love and set apartness. We see this in camps that are very radical, extremely radical, that stretches beyond the confines of set apartness and what the scripture is saying and hold. Some will point to scriptures in part and adamantly lean on the text alone without looking for the spirit of the author to bring to life all that matters in what they're reading and the precepts, how they build upon and connect. They must connect to other scriptures. Nowhere has the Most High Father ordered us to be as wicked as some has become as a result of emotions and anger and disappointment, or the lies or the mistreatment of Hebrews. Again, we will learn to accept this plan, and we will understand fully why race and identity is important. Our behaviors to those who truly seek to grow in set apartness and maturity, according to all that is written, we will see a change as we are refined, as end time prophecies are being fulfilled before our very eyes. Let me continue, my brothers and sisters, regarding race and identities. Understand this. We must not ignore race, and please be advised, not everyone will be able to realize whether they are Hebrew or Gentile because of the race mixing. But keep in mind, whatever convictions which come from the Spirit, that drawing power from the Spirit of Yahuah, whatever convictions one may have, it does not mean everyone must demonstrate that same conviction when it comes to race. Again, some people are receiving the need, the desire, the call to identify with race because there are certain tasks, there are certain prophecies that must be fulfilled. And others are called to know that they are part of the set apart family, nothing more. And I'll mention something that supports what I just said. But keep this in mind. The Almighty's Father, it's the Almighty's Father's plan. And each of us are tasked with specific duties and responsibilities, which we will soon grow to know more clearly, especially those who will fulfill the final Exodus and more. There will be many among us who may never be able to discover their race. This is okay. It is okay. But they will acknowledge and must acknowledge being part of an awakening nation. Those who together are brought under the banner of Yasharal as one family by Yahusha HaMashiach. That is something that we will grow to understand clearly. I believe that there are many non-Hebrews by race who struggle with accepting that they are Gentiles because they are afraid or apprehensive or they have anxieties. Why? Because there are radicalized Hebrews who are not our brothers and sisters, who do not seek to do the will of the Almighty Father, or individuals who are just unlearned, but their actions are disobedient and too radical. So this sometimes perpetuates or fuels those who are white that are waking up into the truth regarding the scriptures, regarding the children of the Most High. Those who are waking up, who are white, struggle with acknowledging that we are indeed the true Hebrews. This too will change in due season. But let me read something, my brothers and sisters, because we must keep the scriptures whole. It is paramount that we keep the scriptures whole. I want to read Titus 3:8-9. It reads as follows: Trustworthy is the word And in this regard, I wish that you strongly consider, let me backtrack here. Titus 3:8, trustworthy is the word, and in this regard, I wish you to strongly affirm that those who have believed in the Almighty One should keep their minds on maintaining good works. This is good and profitable to men. 9th verse. I'm reading Titus, 3rd chapter, 9th verse. But keep away from foolish questions and genealogies and strife and quarrels about the Torah, for they are unprofitable and useless. I want to say again, it says keep away from foolish questions and genealogies and strife and quarrels about Torah, for they are unprofitable and useless. See, my brothers and sisters, he don't want us to be arguing over genealogies. He will stir and he will draw and he will direct those who must acknowledge race and those who must just focus mainly on saying, I know that I am a part of Yasharal because I seek to do the will of the Almighty Father, and I acknowledge his plan, and I know that I am made one with Yasharal through Yahusha Messiah. So in spite of man's effort to take advantage of us when we were in slavery, or despite of the flesh efforts, when way back in the day, different Hebrews took different wives from different races. See, keep in mind, the flesh do war against the spirit. So it was not a good thing. Was it a permissible thing? Indeed, for we see that practice in scripture and today. Why was it not a good thing? Sometimes many complications or unnecessary baggage comes with mixing of races, my brothers and sisters. So do I condemn it? I am persuaded not to. Do I suggest that people that are coming into the truth not mix race? Indeed, I do. I make that recommendation that you do not. But if you have, that is between you and the Most High. But there are reasons, and I can present scriptures that support these reasons. But moving on, back to race and identity, my brothers and sisters. It is important. But let us not get into arguing over genealogies. Let me continue on with Romans chapter 10, verse 12 and 13. Reads as follows. Because there is no distinction between Yehudite and Greek, for the same master of all is rich to all those calling upon him. For everyone who calls on the name of Yahuwah shall be saved. So you see, my brothers and sisters, they say everyone who calls on name. But keep in mind, I speak of often, that no man can come unto the Father except by the Son. And he manifests this word as the Son in the name of Yahusha. So keep in mind John 6:44. And also keep in mind John 12:32, which speaks of the Mashiach, if he be lifted up, that he will draw all men to himself. Him as the word of Yahuwah made flesh. Let me also read Galatians 3:28, which reads, there is not Yehudite nor Greek, there is not slave nor free, there is not male or female and female, for you are all one in Messiah Yahusha. And so many people take this as a license to say, no, you don't have to try to identify whether you're Hebrew or not. And I'm not saying to anyone that you should try to identify whether you're Hebrew. Not at all. Don't try. But if the convictions, if the drawing is there, if the concerns are there because he is stirring your spirit to recognize who you are, then yield to the calling from the power of the Most High Father, Yahuwah, and Yahusha's name. Yield to it, grow in it, and stand firm in it, my brothers and sisters. If that conviction is not there, do not fret, do not worry. Know that you are a part of the body of one if you indeed seek to do the will of the Almighty Father. You see, so don't take one scripture, 3:28, and think we're not supposed to think about race. Because if that was the case, how then can Revelation 7 chapter be fulfilled? How then can we understand the fulfillment of the regathering of those who were scattered? As I mentioned earlier. Let me also read Romans 12:1. It says, I call upon you, therefore, brothers, through the compassion of the Almighty One, to present your bodies a living offering, set apart, well-pleasing to the Almighty One, your reasonable worship. That is what's important, my brothers and sisters, that we present ourselves before our Father, Yahuah. In the name of Yahusha. Why do I say that? Because no man can come unto the Father except through acknowledging his plan, the sequence of his plan for our restoration, for our growth and maturity in worship and obedience to him. I want to read John 4:23 and 4:24 as well. It reads as follows. But the hour is coming, and now is, when the true worshipers shall worship the Father in spirit and in truth. For the Father also does seek such to worship him. The Almighty One is spirit, and those who worship him need to worship in spirit and in truth. That was John 4:23 and 24. My brothers and sisters, I've seen individuals, camps demonstrate their frustration, their anger. I've seen them spew out false teachings and doctrines as it relates to Hebrews and Gentiles. Many are driven by emotions, disappointment, anger, or as a result of the mistreatments of so-called blacks or Hebrews within the United States. But let us not let our angers and emotion continue to overtake us, continue to make us speak ill of our brothers who are grafted together into this family of the children of Yahuah, made one by Yahusha Messiah, our Mashiach. I have witnessed camps that focus their narrative more so on Yasharal or Israel versus Esau or Edom. Please be advised, the set apart children of Yahuah will come under the banner of Yasharal, true Yasharal, the set apart ones. And I'm referencing those who seek to do the will of the Almighty Father. We will be identified as the children of Yahuah. Please be mindful. There have been, there is, and there will be those who are Hebrews by race, but they are pursuers of wickedness. These individuals are not, let me repeat, not part of our set apart family. Yes, do we share the same race? Indeed, but they're not a part of the set apart family. Are you aware of Romans 9th chapter, verse 6 and 7? Let me read it to you. However, it is not as though the word of the Almighty One has failed, for they are not all Israel who are of Israel. Neither are they all children, because they are the seed of Abraham. But in Yitzhak your seed shall be called. That was Romans 9, 6 and 7. I submit to you, just as there have been and will be set apart Hebrews or Yasharal, there are also wicked Hebrews or wicked Yasharal. If we look around, we would not have to look too far, and it would not be too difficult to identify that there are contrasts and differences across the population of Yasharal. We see it in many of the different camps. The anger, the bitterness, the wickedness, the evil. And we see it in some camps, set apartness. There's a contrast, my brothers and sisters. Know this, Esau, who became Edom, just like Yaakov or Jacob became Israel or Yasharal, Esau became Edom by race. And when we read the scriptures, we will find at times this represents, you'll see that there's a correlation that it represents the Gentiles or Goyim, and will prove to represent other nations. You see, some may say, now wait a minute, Esau and Jacob were brothers. They came out the same womb. Yes, they were. But they were battling and they were at odds. And as the scriptures say, no nation can stand if they're divided against itself. So there's a division of spirit. And we see that in the actions of Esau. So the actions, the spirit behind his actions, many who followed that spirit, that behavior, this is a behavior that the Most High hates. So believe it or not, from the literal, we also come to measure the habits and cultures that reflect either teachings from Yasharal, who was Yaakov, or actions and behaviors and customs influenced by Esau, who was Edom. The scriptures place two distinctions throughout, referencing Hebrews and Gentiles more than any other nation, as I mentioned earlier. The time will come when we will discover, just as there are set apart and wicked Yasharal, some may say Israelites, there are also individuals of other nations who can become set apart and part of the body of one. In other words, there are set apart children of Yahuah, complete with Hebrews and Gentiles that seek to do the will of the Almighty Father. In other words, there will be other nations. We are grafted together as one. Just as there are descendants by race of Esau or Edom who seek to do the will of the Almighty Father and therefore become part of Yasharal. You see, my brothers and sisters, if we examine the scriptures, please listen carefully. Anyone who seek to do the will of the Almighty Father, we are grafted together as one by Yahusha Messiah. His creations that are brought back into fellowship, who follow his ways, his laws, his statutes, his living instructions, his Torah, which means instructions, laws. All individuals who seek to do his will, we are brought together. We are restored into fellowship. So you can have people who are descendants, if you want to say, of Esau, Edom, but seek to do the will of the Almighty Father, become our brother. So when you read the scriptures talking about Yasharal, I love, Esau I hate, it is the spirit behind the actions of what happened, what Esau represented. Again, remember, by race, they were brothers, and many failed to even realize that. It would be wise, my brothers, to discern and distinguish the importance of race and identity and set apartness, as well as representation of nations. If you are having difficulties understanding these words, trust in due season, they will become clear. Consider also the following, my brothers and sisters. Malachi 1, 2, and 3 says, I love you, said Yahuwah, but you ask, in what way have you loved us? Was not Esau Yaakov's brother? Declares Yahuwah, and I love Yaakov, but I have hated Esau, and I have laid waste his mountains and his inheritance for the jackals of the wilderness. Study the scriptures, my brothers and sisters, and you would see wickedness is what the Most High hate. Wickedness is what Esau represented. But also understand fully what it means by identifying what it takes to become part of a set-apart nation, a set-apart family. The truth will come and it will be made clear. Let me read Romans 9:13. As it has been written, Yaakov I've loved, but Esau I've hated. That's in contrast, not in contrast, that basically echoes what I read in Malachi 1, 2, and 3. Children of Yahuwah, my brothers, my sisters, hear these words. Listen to them carefully. Pray about them. Let them resonate within your spirit. Weigh them against all scriptures. It was and is the wicked spirit of Esau that the Almighty Father hates. I say that again. When reading the scriptures, it would be wise to know there is race with many different cultural habits as well as customs. And there is the spirit of a person or nation with behaviors. So we have behaviors and practices and customs that are influenced by race alone. But there are also customs and practices that are influenced by the word of the Most High Father that brings us into set apartness, that makes us a set apart nation, an awakening nation, a set apart nation of the children of Yahuwah. And we will see what habits, what customs are important for us to be mindful of. Remember, my brothers and sisters, wicked habits and evil customs can be seen by Hebrews and Gentiles if they're not seeking to do the will of the Almighty Father. Just as set apart actions can be seen through a Gentile or Hebrew. There's a battle, and two nations continue to battle, and will so until Judgment Day. Yasharal, oh Yasharal, our journey comes with many challenges. I understand these challenges can be difficult, but know this, the Almighty Father Yahuah, He made us promises as well as presented to us end time prophecies that require specific things to come to pass. Given our current state and as we discover what is true, let us persevere and seek out balanced understanding of all that is written for the purposes of worshiping and obeying the Almighty Father Yahuah. If you are one who struggles with this message or find it somewhat a challenge, please pray on it. Study, pray some more, ask questions, seek out wise and set apart counsel, and by all means, seek to discern where the spirit of our teacher Yahusha is directing you, me, Yasharal, what is expected of us individually and collectively. I know it's not about any one individual, including me, but it is, O Yasharal, it is about true worship in obedience to the Almighty Father Yahuah. Be advised, there are those who will not receive these words as they are presented. In other words, individuals will hear what they only desire to listen to, and for whatever reason, in some cases, they would even present a false witness. And I say to you, my brothers and sisters, do not be despaired. I wanted to put these, there was a few verses that I mentioned that were not shown, and I want to show them, so you may notice the slide transition. Let us not be alarmed. Let us not grow weary. Let us be encouraged. Yes, people present things, including me, that's a challenge for us to identify, discern, and receive and embrace as set-apart instruction. But remember, the Most High promised our refinement. He promised our discipline. It is promised in Hebrews 12th chapter, as well as Revelation 3:19. We have a responsibility, my brothers and sisters, and that will become clear, and many will witness such. Trust that any truth that is presented coming from the Almighty Father, it will do what it's designed to accomplish in due season. And I am referencing Isaiah 55:10-11. It reads as follows: For as the rain comes down and the snow from the heavens, and do not return there, but water the earth, and make it bring forth and bud, and give seed to the sower and bread to the eater, so is my word that goes forth from my mouth. It does not return to me empty, but it shall do what I please, and shall certainly accomplish what I sent it for. Lean on this. Believe these words, my brothers and sisters. Anything that is set apart and true, coming from the Most High, will do what it was set out and designed. It will do what it was designed to do, what it was created to do. And that truth will stir until it fulfills all that it was sent out to do. Remember, it speaks of one planting, one watering, and the Most High giving the increase. And I submit to you, all three of those are influenced by the drawing power of the Most High Father Yahuah through his set apart spirit sent in Yahusha's name. I will conclude this segment of race and identity for now. Yes, it will be a dialogue discussed further at some time. So this will not be the end. But we will come to know this plan belongs to the Almighty Yahuah. Be encouraged. End times are here. Clarity is coming. Understanding is coming to those who diligently seek him. There will be some who will pass, who will face a physical death and not see what would occur. And there will be the others who will be physically alive. Let us pass all jewels, all valuable lessons, all set apart teachings. And I'm saying jewels as it relates to set apart teachings. Let us pass these on to one another. Let us pass these on to other generations. Let us be mindful of what is expected of us. Until next time, my brothers, as I mentioned earlier, the next segment will be addressing nation identity. I wanted this to be a focus on individual identity as it relates to race, to those who are receiving convictions that direct them to a path that will bring clear of their position as it relates to race, as it relates to being a Hebrew or a Gentile. And I wanted to be clear that for those who do not, let us not push on others saying, you are Hebrew, you need to know you. No. If they're not being drawn into understanding that, let them be. If they are indeed seeking set of partners, don't say, well, the only way you can have set of partners is you have to know you're Hebrew. That's not true. But to be set of partners, you must know that you're grafted into the body of Yasharal under the banner as one by Yahusha Messiah. So we become one of a set apart family. There is a slight distinction that is important that we understand. Keep that in mind, my brothers and sisters. Keep that in mind. Until next time, thank you for your patience. Thank you for tuning in. I pray that these words may add strength to your walk as the Most High make them alive. I pray that you are able to discover that he is indeed alive, and it is highly possible for us to discern him working in us, one towards another, and through his chosen leaders, teachers and mores, and pastors and elders and counselors. Be mindful. These are end times, and things will begin to come crystal clear, my brothers and sisters. Until next time, shalom, shalom, and shalom.